Hey guys, real quick before we get into the review, I want to remind you I was on a podcast this last weekend called Straight Outta Gotham. I'd like to thank the hosts, Eric and Pete, for having me on there. It was a lot of fun, and we talked about a lot of nerd stuff. And if you like that sort of stuff, you guys should go check it out. There'll be some links down in the description below for you to go find that. And without further ado, my most anticipated film of 2022, The Batman. A serial killer called the Riddler is targeting prominent figures in Gotham City, and it's up to the Batman to figure out his endgame before he can bring the whole city to its knees. Yes, that's right, guys. It's finally here. The Batman. I've been waiting 5 years for this thing. Ever since they announced Matt Reeves as the director officially, we've been waiting since 2017 for this film, and it's here. And I got to see it last night at a fan screening in IMAX. It was a great time. There's a lot to this movie, so reviewing this is going to be really hard. Trust me, there won't be any spoilers. I'm not going to give away big plot points, just some general thoughts, and maybe give you some ideas of what some influences kind of went into this movie to give you a better understanding of what you can expect when you go see the film, if you decide to go see this film, which I think you should. This is a really, really good movie. But let's start off with the cast, and of course, everybody, whenever a new Batman movie is announced, who's going to be the guy on the cowl? Who's going to be that guy playing him? And when Robert Pattinson was announced, not everybody was crazy about it. I get it. The big stigma was, he's Edward from Twilight. Yeah, he was. And I think he did an okay job doing Edward from Twilight. And since then, I think he's done a lot of stuff that people should have checked out because Robert Pattinson is a great Bruce Wayne and a great Batman. I think what he does on the screen is fantastic. What they decide to do with the character is a great interpretation. I have no qualms with his performance or with anything they did there in any regard. You got Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. She is awesome, a lot of fun. She gets to do a lot of cool stuff in the film, which is very Catwoman-esque, and might be, I know after seeing the film only one time, I hate saying this, but she might be the best on-screen Catwoman we've got. I know that's, people who love Michelle Pfeiffer and Anne Hathaway will argue, but I do think that Zoe Kravitz is at least going to get serious conversation about being the best on-screen Catwoman. Then you have Paul Dano, who plays the Riddler. Yes, this interpretation is very different than the Jim Carrey version, which is more than welcome, and I like what they did with this because they play the serial killer angle, but he's also very much the Riddler, and I know you don't see that in the trailers other than, okay, you see some riddles, like that's his shtick, but there's seriously a scene in this film that flipped the switch on me for Paul Dano, because before this particular scene, Paul Dano was like, okay, yeah, it's cool, he's menacing, he's kind of terrifying. It was almost very one note, but then there is this gorgeous scene, and it's just two dudes talking in a room, and Paul Dano just took a whole other dimension with his character and just floored me with it. Jeffrey Wright as James Gordon, or as eventually he will be known as Commissioner Gordon, does a fantastic job as well. You have John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, who, you don't see a lot in the trailers, but it was a pleasant surprise seeing him. I think John Turturro's a great actor, so he gets a little more screen time than you might anticipate in this film. Then you got Andy Serkis, who is a great Alfred. Maybe not as much screen time as I wanted, but still great nonetheless whenever he's on screen. And finally, Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot, a.k.a. the Penguin. And I know a lot of people saw these trailers and were like, who's Colin Farrell playing? I didn't see him. Well, he's the Penguin. He's in a fat suit. He's got all the makeup, and he's unrecognizable. And in the movie, the makeup looks incredible. It's fantastic what they did with him. And his performance is probably the standout. Like, there's been all that talk about a Penguin's HBO Max series, and after seeing the movie, I get it, and I want this Penguin series with Colin Farrell as this character. It's just, it got me super excited for it. So yeah, this cast is great, guys, and I'm not going to go and say, give somebody an Oscar. It's one viewing of this film. I'm going to have to keep repeating myself. It's one viewing of this film, so I've been stewing on it for 12 hours or so bear with me. I think there's a lot of improvement I could see in their performances the more I see the film, and maybe catch some nuances that I missed on an initial viewing. So we'll see. But let's move on. The score. Michael Giacchino's score is now going to be up there in, the pantheon of great comic book scores and great Batman scores, because Batman has always traditionally had some of the best film scores. So put it up there with the Hans Zimmer Dark Knight trilogy scores, and put it up there with the Danny Elfman scores of the early Batman films. This is just something that I can't believe is as good as it is, and you can feel every time that score came on, that dun 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 dun. It just it fit everything perfectly. There was not a bit of music that felt out of place in this film either. I think they did a real good job at even using songs like Nirvana's Something in the Way gets used. The song Ave Maria gets used, and they're purposeful. It fit the tone, it fit the mood, and that's what this film is. This film carries, it is a mood. It is definitely not your typical comic book fare. Go into this knowing that this is atmosphere. It is brooding, it is dark, it is, there's always an air of mystery and violence to this thing, and it's, not a whole lot of moments where you're going to sit there and laugh or be like, oh, this is like, great popcorn fluff. No, this is a gritty, dark detective story. Batman is literally solving murders, and he plays detective, and this is the most detective Batman we've ever had, and I appreciated the heck out of that. So what I really like is that this film did feel like I was watching a graphic novel on the screen. It was the way the film was paced, kind of the way the story was structured. It was almost like getting issue, here's issue 1, so you get like a 10, 15-minute segment that kind of felt like its own thing. And it's not like it was like a bunch of unconnected vignettes. It was like everything had a reason for being there, but it did feel like, you were watching things in sections almost, like here's issue 1, here's issue 2, and as you're going through the graphic novel, and then at the end, how everything is kind of tied together, and all the loose ends are, dealt with in a satisfactory way. It just breathed like a comic book. It was like I sat there for a couple hours and just read a great graphic novel, and to see it all play out on screen was an experience I've never had in a movie, let alone a Batman movie before, where it felt like an actual graphic novel. Now let's talk about the length. The length is 3 hours long, and that's a heck of an endeavor. That's something that could turn a lot of people away from this. And let me tell you, at least for me personally, I did not feel like it was 3 hours. Yeah, it felt a little, I won't say it felt long. I mean, it was long. You could tell like you've been sitting there for a couple hours, and I wasn't really bored at all. Like, I like to think of like when I saw Wolf of Wall Street, that film was like 3 hours long as well, and I didn't feel the 3 hours. Like, I knew it was a long movie, but you didn't feel the time, if you get what I'm saying. So with this, it was the same case where I was into the story, I was into the mystery, and I never felt like the pacing slowed down to the point where I was like, all right, guys, come on, let's wrap it up. I think it did a good job at that, but I will get nitpicky and say there are maybe some little bits where I would have maybe trimmed certain things down, but that's after one viewing, it's hard to say that. Maybe in subsequent rewatches, I'll be able to identify that a little more. But so first time seeing it through, I guess overall, I didn't have any problems with the length. I know some people will. It's a daunting 3 hours. I think Matt Reeves brings us one of the best Batman films we've ever gotten. The director of this film, he's done a phenomenal job. He's done 2 Planet of the Apes movies. He's done a remake of a film I love. This one he did was called Let Me In, a remake of Let the Right One In. And he did the Cloverfield movie, which I think a lot of people saw. And I think what he does with this is borderline masterful. I think there are definitely some nitpicks. This isn't a perfect movie, guys. I can't say I've ever seen a perfect movie. Even my favorite movie of all time is not a perfect movie. But this, I see what he was doing, and I think, striking, he does so much right that he's allowed to have the few flaws that are in this. And, striking a mood and telling a great, compelling story and keeping all the characters interesting and pretty much relevant throughout the film is a tough thing to do, and to have a interpretation of the Batman character that even a studio like Warner Brothers, who's done Batman films for decades now, having them approve this vision for this character should be noted as well, because this is something that wouldn't normally have gotten made. This is a film that's a mix of the film Seven. It's a little bit Chinatown. It's a bunch of great old 70s noir films, and whenever you hear people, or when you've heard the filmmakers talking about this, it's very true. They never lied in that aspect. I think they were very truthful and upfront with what this movie was, and that is what we got. In terms of Batman influences, you got a little bit of Long Halloween in here, as we suspected, a little bit of Batman Earth 1, which I suspected, and a little bit of the Telltale Batman's video game, as well as a little bit of Batman Year 1. So they kind of mix it all together in this great package, which I think, turns out one of the best Batman movies we've ever seen. Is it the best Batman movie we've ever seen? That'll be up to you, and time will tell for me. So I'm going to give this film a solid A. I can see in subsequent rewatches where maybe I could, have some aspects of this film improve for me. Because, seeing it one time, it's hard. Because, there's so much going on. It's a 3-hour movie. There's a lot to process here. So I think upon this initial viewing, I'm happy giving it an A. I think it can go up, but it can also slide down on subsequent viewings. I'm not sure. I look forward to talking about this film with other people. I've already had a little bit of conversations with other people who've seen it, and it's interesting the kind of conversations that are coming out of this. So I'm very excited for people to see this. I'm very excited to see what people think, because I definitely don't think this is for everybody. If you are like an average Batman fan, who maybe you don't read the graphic novels, or maybe you're just, it depends on your Batman taste. Do you like a little more fantastical Batman? Do you like a little more realistic, gritty Batman? So it's going to depend, guys. And don't hate on anybody for feeling how they feel, because, I could see where this is going to please a lot of people and where this isn't going to work for people. So, that's the beauty of film. It's all subjective. Just be kind to each other with your opinions and their opinions. So, yep. So that's it, guys. I could talk about this all day. And I was thinking about doing a spoiler video this weekend. We'll see. There is a lot I want to talk about and just get my thoughts out on. So maybe I will do that. What do you guys think? So please, guys, leave a comment down below. What do you guys think about me doing a spoiler video? And please hit that thumbs up button. It means a lot to me. Hit that subscribe button and that little bell notifications thing so you get notified whenever I come out with new videos. Also means so much to me. And that's it, guys. That is it for my The Batman review. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.